Okay, guys, so thanks for watching this review. We're going to be doing King Kong versus Godzilla, released in 1962. As I've said before in my other videos, if you didn't see them, I'm going to be basically leaving Gojira and Godzilla raids again to be the last set of movies I'm going to review the week of their film release. The reason for that is because I believe since the film is going to be a homage to the original, as well as having other monsters to fight, I kind of consider it as a combination of the first two movies. So we're going to start with King Kong versus Godzilla, and this movie, I got to say, I recently obviously watched it again. It hasn't aged well, unfortunately. But when you consider 1962, I mean, it's so many years ago, and the thing I can remember about the movie, and I'm going to do this review kind of twofold. I'm going to tell you what my reaction was as a kid, that I can remember as a kid, and how I feel about it now. As a kid when I saw the movie, I was pretty psyched up. King Kong was a big deal in the United States. That was a United States monster. America created it. The pride of King Kong. Empire State Building, which at the time was the pinnacle, of New York City. So I mean, it was psyched up. And then Godzilla, who was my favorite monster, obviously, despite King Kong, I was really like into this. This to me was like the Super Bowl of kaiju when I was a kid. I'm like, yeah. So I mean, I was very excited about the movie. At that time, I didn't pay attention to the story. Okay, I didn't care about the story. I just wanted to see King Kong and Godzilla duke it out. So I remember as a kid watching the fights. I thought it was cool. I thought the first time they met each other and Godzilla kind of got the best of King Kong. Every time King Kong tossed a rock at him, Godzilla whacked it right back. Then he started using his radiation and kind of, shooed King Kong away. King Kong didn't really know how to take that. Later on, obviously, a couple of other fights, King Kong started to use his intelligence a little bit more, started to kind of trick Godzilla and coerce him into things. And I can remember watching it, getting frustrated because I'm like, there's no way Godzilla can be losing. There's no way that he should be getting his butt whipped or, you know. Anyway, to make a long story short, as a kid, I was disappointed with the ending of the movie because I was under the assumption that Godzilla lost. They show King Kong at the end and blah 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 blah. So, but as a kid, I enjoyed the movie. It was a lot of fun. Um, I wasn't even back then, and even now, I was never. And this is kind of weird because a lot of people liked the way Godzilla looked in this movie. I didn't. I kind of thought he looked dorky, and I thought that as a kid, and I still think that now that he just looked kind of dorky. So I wasn't crazy. There were other elements about the suit that were really cool. I thought that, like his hands and the nails looked ferocious, but I wasn't too crazy about the face. He just looked kind of dorky. But now watching it again, obviously I try to pay more attention to the storyline. These storylines are kind of tough to really focus on because a lot of them are either very simple, a lot of them are repetitive, and sometimes they're just outright campy. But the thing about these Godzilla movies is I like to call them cheesy goodness. So in this movie, basically the story is you got this guy who owns a pharmaceutical company. He's sponsoring all these TV shows that he deems are unworthy, I guess, of his money, and he wants something to make an impact. And he finds out a legend about a monster on an island. I think it's called Farah Island or something like that. I don't remember the name of the island, but so he goes. Well, he doesn't go there, but he sends two people over there to basically find out more. These two gentlemen get to the island, and the natives there are a little bit restless. They have a guide with them that's able to communicate with them, and they basically there's this juice, this sacred juice that or berry, I should say, that they make into juice, and they use that to fend off the monster, who we all know by this time is King Kong. Um, and I remember, this was so funny. When you take a movie like this and you put it on a Blu-ray, it kind of upscales the movie. So when they were fighting the octopus, which I remember as a kid, that was so cool. But now I was watching it, and every time they either threw a torch at it or fired a gun, or even when King Kong was fighting it and threw rocks at it, you saw all those items bouncing off a screen, which was hilarious. It was just a big screen of an octopus, but that's what makes it. Those are the kinds of things that makes you appreciate that, because at that time, obviously, they didn't have CGI. So that's how they did it. And at that time, it looked very real. I mean, not as real as some of the things now, but at the time they sold it. So anyway, they King Kong, after he fends off the octopus, he drinks the juice, he passes out, he's intoxicated. They carry him on a raft that they got out of nowhere. They must have built it, and God knows how. They probably built it really quick. Take him, take him out of there. In the meantime, not that this is all happening at the same time, but they go back and forth in the movie. Uh, there's an American submarine out in the, I want to say, towards the North Pole or the colder areas of the Atlantic, and they hit an iceberg. Luckily, they're a submarine, and as they're stuck and they're trying to either get out or figure out a way that they can contact for help, um, Godzilla happens to be in that iceberg. He blows his torch on him, b- breaks the hole, and boom, the submarine is shot. There's a search party looking for the submarine. They find the where I guess where all the fuel spilled out in the water, and then suddenly, boom, Godzilla bursts out of the iceberg. He goes and he lays siege down on a military camp up there. I don't know why there would be one up there, but just so happens to be one. And that scene I remember was kind of cool. I mean, the obviously again you can tell that these are model tanks, and but it was kind of cool. He got in there, he laid into it, and then he continued onwards. So. Um, Obviously, to make a long story short, because basically they want to utilize King Kong to fight Godzilla in hopes that the two monsters just kill each other off and not have to worry about decimating cities. And then the guy from the pharmaceutical company is hoping that by getting it on film, he can turn a profit. Meanwhile, with all that going on around them, and if you see the American version inserts clips from the United Nations where they try to like, it's like they're doing play by play for the fight. You know that, well, this is King Kong and why he's intelligent, the size of his head and the brain, and then Godzilla being a lizard or a dinosaur or whatever. Then that's what they call him, even though we all know that's not what he is. And they talk about his lack of intelligence or whatever. So that stuff was inserted for the American version. That is not on the original Japanese version. So anyway, so obviously, like I said, Godzilla and King Kong engage each other, and watching it now, while I don't like Godzilla's look, I think King Kong's is almost as worse. I mean, this movie just did not age well. They didn't update it. It's still the same kind of format that they filmed it in. Some of the other movies got a little bit of an update, but same thing. Godzilla and King Kong meet. Godzilla fends them off. Then they have another duel, and King Kong starts to get the better of him. He starts to utilize his intelligence. They also figure out that Godzilla's weakness is electricity. Yeah, whatever. And that was kind of weird, but they had to give King Kong some sort of counter to Godzilla's radiation, and I can understand that. But I mean, King Kong, any King Kong movie you've ever seen, he doesn't use electricity. He doesn't hone electricity. So, but again, they had to use it in the film. They had to make a lot of changes to King Kong. King Kong originally was not that big. King Kong was maybe 20, 30, maybe 20 or 30 feet tall in his original movies, where in this movie he's about, 100 feet tall, same as Godzilla. So, but they have to do that to match them up. So finally, they're having this showdown. King Kong starts to get the better of him. They fight, they fight. They finally tumble down into the ocean, and c'est la vie. King Kong pops out of the water, and he appears to be victorious, which we all know that's not the case. Maybe, Godzilla probably just like, yeah, whatever. I'm just going to swim back to my iceberg, or I'm going to head somewhere else and just start causing havoc. Now, there's some people out there who still, for whatever reason, believe that in the Japanese version, Godzilla wins, and that's not the case. Godzilla doesn't win, well, technically, in my opinion, there's no winner. Just because King Kong came out of the water doesn't mean he won. Godzilla probably just decided to swim off. But in both films, King Kong comes out of the water. I think in the Japanese film, as the credits roll, you hear King Kong roar, then you hear Godzilla roar, and then the American version, you hear King Kong roar, but you don't hear Godzilla. So that's just some little trivia. Another thing is this movie actually turned out to be the most highest grossing film of all of them at the time. Toho wanted to do a sequel, but it didn't work out. So, you know, whatever. But anyway, so that's basically the review. I mean, overall, obviously it's the most successful movie in terms of money. It's not my personal favorite. I didn't think it was bad. I didn't like the look of the monsters. That kind of turned it off for me. But overall, it's a classic. It's a classic. A lot of people love this movie, and a lot of people love the way Godzilla looked. So I mean, to be the third movie in the series, obviously it's much one of the it's a lot older than some of the more popular ones. But you know, I would love to see an update of this. I would love to see them take Peter Jackson's King Kong, scale him up, and then put him against the Godzilla we're going to see next year. So, so that wraps it up for this review. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Next week we're going to be reviewing Mothra versus Godzilla. That is the next movie in line, and I will see you guys then. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe for more video updates. Thank you for watching, and if you have any other suggestions or any other requests, by all means, please let me know. I'll be more than happy to do it. Until then, I'll see you guys for the next review for March to the King 28-week marathon. Take it easy.